Yes. So this is the kind of a new role or involvement, and now uh, these members of the SOC are basically kind of really paid well. Sometimes get paid well than the analyst or penetration tester. Why I say sometimes, because penetration tester salary is not defined, or they have really a great amount of variance in their salary depending upon the industry, depending upon the domains you work. Okay, so having said that, cloud infra associate analyst can be another parallel role, but this require a bit of information about the infrastructure. Now, what are the infrastructure we normally talk about? This is like the cloud servers, the cloud engagement, the cloud security, the access parameter on the cloud, and various cloud related infrastructure arrangement, including the virtual private server we normally acquire to put on our web services, to sell our products on the cloud, and so on and so forth. So here, what we are trying to do, we are trying to understand the rules and responsibility of a cybersecurity expert. And one of them is cloud or infra SOC analyst. Again, they call analyst, they call support, they call leaders, executive, depending upon the organizational policies and procedures, they have very different name. But overall, this role involves more of an infrastructure, domain rather than just the penetration or a cybersecurity analyst kind of domain. Again, there could be a unification of roles as well, like cybersecurity or penetration tester, come cloud analyst, and all those things. This also happens in some organizations. But we are trying to understand these are the three basic entity where we can start with. Now, how does this cloud, analyst can basically help out, or cloud support can help us to build the SOC, to build the overall security practices? Let's try to understand that, and then we basically we'll move on to the step-by-step understanding on how we go on about securing everything, right? So let's start with the cloud or infra SOC analyst. Anybody have any questions as of now? Anything which I have missed to explain, or you want me to explain again or in detail? Anybody? I think we are missing Madam, right? Madam haven't joined yet still, but no problem. So Anantaji, Pratikji, do you have any question or queries for me as of now?
No, sir, I'm good.
I'm good as well, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. So let's get started on this thing. And today I think we'll actually start looking at the practical approaches of SOC implementation. Okay, and then we might do a kind of hands-on where you can prepare a basic SOC plan for a given entity. We'll try that thing. That's a kind of output we'll do. We'll basically start actually hands-on on cybersecurity as well. Okay, so let's start with cloud and infra SOC analyst. Install and configure, deploy public key infrastructure. Now, this is a kind of, most probably, I believe you know what is public key, private key, and all those things. If not, don't worry, we're going to revise everything here just to make sure there's a basic security involved whenever you try to upload or try to, raise your softwares to cloud platform. Now, what is the cloud? Cloud is basically an internet-based server farm or individual server, or kind of normally it's a server farm, because we normally rent out a couple of servers together, kind of web server, database server, this server, that server, depending upon the product you are manufacturing or building or supporting. You have so many servers on the cloud. Now, all these communication, all these cloud installs or cloud migration requires some basic encryption or some basic communication security protocols. These protocols talk about something like public key encryption, private key encryption, and there are so many type of encryptions available. You might choose any one of them, and then you use those or implement within. Sometimes even the cloud service provider let you choose and let you basically recommend which is the best for us. Again, the more difficult encryption, it will take some more time to decrypt, encrypt, and all those things also. So it depends on the performance of computer, the performance of a infrastructure you have to support this encryption. So we need to find a median between the security and the performance, depending upon your need, uh, depending upon your overall implementation of you know okay, depending upon implementation of your uh, security protocols along this, the cloud infrastructure executive can plan for any one of them. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Good evening, sir. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Great, great. We are just starting up. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Sorry for
So
being late.
it started with we had a look at penetration testing. We had a look at what the other one?
Yeah, I had a look.
Cybersecurity analyst. Now we are looking at the third role called cloud infrastructure analyst. This is kind of forthcoming role in the last 5-6 years. Okay, so let's try to understand. Install, configure, and deploy public infrastructure and network components while assessing and troubleshooting issues to support organization security. Now, as we know, as we have understood, like we are moving all our software product solutions to cloud. So the communication between you as an organization, you as a manager, you as a controller of those software product solution infrastructure, we need to set up something like public key infrastructure or an encryption and decryption type of systems, just to make sure the communications is secure between the cloud where you deploy this thing and your own premises. And of course, you are now with a reduced load of cloud server maintenance, reduced load of making sure the power is continuous, the failure rate is lesser, and so on and so forth. So that's why we normally migrate to cloud.
Can I ask you one like real curious question?
Please go ahead. Don't stop me.
So like when we say like cloud, it's just like a group of server or just like one server, single server, or how it works. I just want to be clear on that thing.
Sure, sure. We also have, I think, cloud couple of slides, but let me answer your question. Cloud is normally a kind of, as I just said, there are normally a form of server. Means if you look at any picture on the Google and try to search for cloud infrastructure or cloud server farm, you'll get a clear picture of so many servers they have installed in the line. Now, all these servers, these are physical server. And if you have actually heard about something like VMware, virtualization, and so on and so forth. So what we actually do, we normally install some software on these physical server to make sure whoever rents this server might feel like there are 6-7 servers available and virtually. And what we do, we normally share the infrastructure. Let's say 25% RAM, 25% processor, 25% hard drive, and 25% of a network throughput is one virtual server. Then second virtual server. The third virtual server might take 50% processor, 25% RAM, and so on and so forth. Depending upon the need of every user, we normally customize these virtual servers, because we normally have a platform called virtualization, where we normally virtually create logical server on a physical server, and we normally can rent out those server. Like on a one physical server, I can rent out 10-15 logical server, depending upon the length and breadth of the requirement. So if somebody like me looking for a single processor, 1 GB storage space, 4 gig of RAM or whatnot RAM and all those things, then I might get a cheaper rate. So like say $100. I'm just giving you a number. I don't know the exact rates as of now, but yes, you can go to a website like Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, or a Rockwell, and there are a dime a dozen cloud service provider within your region. If you just search cloud service provider, you'll get a list of cloud service provider available within your local limits or within the North America or Canadian region. And we might, check out what type of servers they rent you, what is the basic minimum configuration they give you as a basic bare bone infrastructure server. Again, there's a OS involved. There's a version of OS or type of OS involved. Does it, require database to be there? Does it require something like content management system like WordPress or any other system which you want to install on that? They might charge you something extra within, pennies and dollars and all those things. So again, cloud is just a kind of a server on rent or a logical server on rent or a logical machine on rent. And we normally label them as a virtual private server, or we can just rent a website. What is a website? Where the network path is shared across so many sites, and they normally charge you based on one site per so much RAM, so much processor space, and so on and so forth. And this can be flexible as well. So if you don't use those things, they will not charge you. And those kind of lineups they are looking for. So cloud, we get flexibility, plus we get some good SLAs. SLAs in the sense service level agreement, where they will make sure the cloud won't go down for 99.99%. So in a year, they might require 1 hour kind of downtime to upgrade their system and so on and so forth. But otherwise, it's working for you round the clock, 367 days of the year and so on and so forth. So this way, I'm basically gone away with the headache of, trying to manage the human resources for server administrators, trying to have the human resources for updating the, OS, trying to update the antivirus, trying to update all those softwares which we have to maintain on daily basis. So normally we used to, require a team for or a ground staff where these servers are, right? Plus their, those cooling stations, their physical entry challenges and so on and so forth. Now what I have done, I have outsourced this thing to the cloud company. Now there are companies in the world, they still work with the physical server because they believe that's more secure for them. Again, this is thought process. But still, the cloud is the best options available. And these cloud services are quite good, secure in terms of the communication, in terms of the, reliability and all those things. That's why quite a few organizations, they are normally going for the cloud, left and right. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're going to understand the virtualization, which software, how we do it and everything in a couple of sessions. But otherwise, cloud is really a blessing for our software guys. There could be something like hybrid cloud as well. Like you normally do contract with a couple of cloud service providers to make sure if this goes down, I'll have at least this as a backup and so on and so forth. And you can do that thing. And that's what they call, balancing the DNS or walls of DNS and, all those things. We'll have a look at these things in, step by step process. Let's try to understand. We have gone away with all these administrator called system administrator and their, overall guys like support guys to check for electrical outlets, to check for these updates, the software updates, or to check for these, cooling systems and all those things. Now we have one person who normally, you can say he's a kind of cloud or infrastructure manager. What he does, he normally, builds up all these contracts, try to find a kind of economical cloud service provider as per your need or as per your flexibility and all those things. Even if you look at Amazon Web Services, they have built called flexible cloud. What does that mean? It means you normally use whatever, you normally will be charged based on the usage. I believe this is Google model or Amazon model. I think it's a Google model. Amazon have a kind of, I think, flexible web storage. So the storage, whatever you use, they charge for that much storage only. Say similarly, how much network bandwidth you use, you'll get charged for that much bandwidth only, and so on and so forth. So like these services, they are also trying to lure more and more customers at their end. Right now, I believe in North America and Canada, Google Cloud is the one of the most prominent cloud service provider. Then we have Amazon. Then we have smaller players like Rackspace and dime a dozen player. Depending upon your locality, there might be another big player as well. So these type of cloud service providers are normally managed by a cloud manager or a cloud admin. And then we have a couple of cybersecurity analysts or cloud analyst or infrastructure analyst helping him out to build these securities, to check out the security leaks among your system and the cloud system. If you have one, that's fine. If you have two, that's also fine. You might require those many, periodic checks and balances to make sure these systems are not penetrated by anybody. If somebody's tried, you'll get, intimation like, one of the IP address so on. So it's trying to penetrate our network from this region of the world and so on and so forth. Now, how do you find this region of the world? Wherever you basically register a domain, let's say you registered a domain from New Delhi, India. You are registering it with GoDaddy. You are registering with various other domain registry services available in India or in North America as well, depending upon your where do you want to register. You register with this guy. Now, wherever you register this domain service, it normally belongs to that region. So if you register a domain in North America, it will be termed as a North American registered domain. And North America, wherever you process your request from St. Louis, New York, or wherever, it will have that name. And on top of that, wherever the data of a website, web server data, whatever server you're creating on that DNS will have the region, whereas the actual physical cloud service provider is hosting those cloud services. So normally we trace the region with these two fundamentals. One, wherever you have requested this server. Second, wherever the actual physical server is. So if you have something like with the Rackspace North American farm, Rackspace have a big farm in Kansas. They have around 6 farms in North American region. These farms are like a data centers. So you have lines and lines of physical server, and your server can be one of them as a logical server. And that's how it works, even practically also. You might visit this, they call data centers, and they might have a look at you these things. But nowadays, the security is beefed up like left and right. So you might require a kind of, a known friend or a link to basically visit such some server farms. Or if you go to Google and you can search for physical server farms, you might, get a good amount of, images or videos as well. Okay. If you go to YouTube, let me take you to the YouTube so that, you'll get an idea how these server farms are basically. So what I'm doing here, I'm just going to the YouTube. I'll just share that thing with you, just to give you an idea of how these server farms or a cloud server farm, it's called CLOUD SERVR cloud server farm. So if you search here, could you see this thing inside Amazon massive server farm? Let's have a look at it. Okay, pardon me for this advertisement thing.
इन्हें सुकून से खोला जाता है और इनका मजा सबसे दूर खुद के साथ लिया जाता है.
So this is how the overall cloud infrastructure is helping us left and right to set up or to migrate our local servers, local software physical points to a logical servers, and that's how we are doing. So the communication between me and a cloud server is at a paramount here. And that's how we're going to see how this role helps us to get those worries resolved. Now, as we've seen as a cloud server, there are lots and lots of security measures they are taking on their own. So I don't have to really worry about, once I have migrated my data or my server there, how they are managing. Even those guys can help you out in terms of various presentation, in terms of, various security measures they are taking, including physical, logical, and everything. Okay, if you could really understand the paramount or the length and breadth of the physical, security they have already built in, that really makes you how important is just a physical, leakage, right? Right there said you have all these motion sensors, high-level cameras, you have, all those restrictions while going in. You can hardly visit once in a 6 months, even if you are, know somebody for that long. And these, security measures are beefed up almost on a weekly basis. They normally beef up these security measures depending upon any such, leakage, any such, risk or threat they feel they'll try to upgrade the security to a new level so that that breach can be eliminated altogether. Okay, and that's the most important part as far as the cloud service providers. Now let's start to understand how this cloud and infra SOCs analyst help us out. Okay, it's a master advanced hacking concept to manage information security efficiently. So here what we are looking for a person who's a bit senior than the normal other two, where we are trying to understand how these advanced hacking concepts are being managed within this communication at our end or at a cloud end as well. So we need to understand what are facility in place, how I can basically can peacefully sleep at night rather than worrying about the communication, somebody tapping into my wire and all those things. Design security architecture and framework to secure IT operations, because your physical entities, your physical connected clients are still outside that cloud purview, right? For them, you're a client. So that you need to make sure how you're securing your own entities. Like, if there are, let's say, 10 employees at your office, I'm trying to go on a lower end here, but still trying to understand how I can plan my security. So how do I do it? I'll have, all these system updated as far as the OS goes. I'll make sure I'll basically periodically audit each of these system at least once a week. There are 10 systems. So at least, it'll take 10 minutes to validate each system as far as the updation, security measures, and other physical security challenges which we have implemented, including those motion sensor camera, including somebody's digging the ground, and those scenario, somebody trying to breach the physical security alongside, and those scenario as well. So from every angle, as the senior cloud infra SOC analyst, he or she will be responsible for maintaining and auditing these things for such small offices also. And now including some small offices like a State Farm office with, let's say, 5 employees in a city called, a small city called Cape Girardeau near St. Louis, like 80 miles from St. Louis, is really well secured in these scenarios. So what they normally try to do, they normally try to have a separate building so that they are monitoring all the 360 degrees view across the building, so that if any intrusions like cat, rat, dogs, even those type of intrusion, they'll make sure nobody's entering into that restricted area, and those are basically only allowed for those employees and all those things also, because this is a kind of corporate office. So normally there are hardly few employees work there, and it's a kind of small extension to the main office, which is situated in Urbana-Champaign, Illinois. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this way, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to make sure my small office's security is maintained, is basically given the priority as far as all these challenges involved in the day-to-day life of today's IT world. Frame a cloud data storage in case I need some data, local data storage for converting those actual paper-based insurance contract to digital contract, and then move to the actual corporate data center. That's also done through a very secure way. So we have all these data storage are basically configured to its best security, so that nobody without authorization can copy any of those contracts or those personal data given to this insurance service provider. Protect data movement from disaster recovery. Yes, disaster recovery is one of the most another important factor here. As we've seen in Amazon, right? They've started building their own water supply station. They started building own electrical supply station, and so on and so forth. Even in various English movies, you can clearly see like how they are trying to tap the cloud server or tap the server from filling out these water supply or electrical supply, and so on and so forth. So we need to make sure that in case of such failures, the redundancy is there. As in that Amazon server video, we've understood Amazon is making sure all these servers are up and running 99%, 0.99 999 percent, it's up and running. There is even you want to update something, you normally share the load of this server farm to the another server farm. And as the VP of Amazon clearly explained, you have around 80 servers 80 physical server or 80,000. I think 80,000 physical server and some 1 petabyte of data pumping in and out on an hourly basis. So that type of facility we are looking for a given data center or a server farm. Data center was a kind of old concept. Now we normally call it a server farm because then you are referring to either database server, application server, or what all server. If you call data center, then we are predominantly looking for a data servers. But of course, these references can change, according to your regional dialect as well. And there's no fixation on such, linguistic to be applied to IT processes, but still, we can be a bit cautious here. Okay, so like that, we can have a cloud infra resources analyst to help us out left and right to build all these secure communication and the storage between the small office to a cloud service provider and the communication in between. Does that make sense to you? Any questions so far?
No, sir, I'm good.
They're good, right? So what we are trying to do, we are trying to understand all these type of support we need in terms of building a better security, building a better cyber security for a given office. Okay, and in that line, let's move to the another slide. Come on. Yes. Now we had a look at something called disaster recovery, right? There another procedure called real-time incident response. Now, what does this mean? If anything happens in terms of breakages, leakages, or penetration, or any type of threat for that matter, we should be ready for such incidents response. And believe me, there are at least 20 such order teams which are there or nominated for each of such response. So what could be such incidents? Let's try to work on that. One, electrical failure. Second can be water failure. Third can be the cooling system failure. Fourth can be heavy rains. Fifth can be somebody trying to break the outer gate of your wall. Somebody try to climb the wall, and so on and so forth. So there are such instances defined, and then we have an instance team, instance response team nominated throughout our employee base. Normally, one employee can be in couple of concurrent teams as well, because if you look at these data center or a server farms, there are hardly few employees working day in, day out. And if you look at even Amazon, one server farm of 80,000 server, there could be hardly 10 or 15 employees normally work there. Rest is all done automatically by systems and by escalations from those systems. In case of such scenario, we might procure some team from other server farms as well, which are actually weighted on various security measures, like the North American government have security clearance level and all those things. So even Amazon have some sort of a security clearance, and so on and so forth, the other cloud service provider as well. Okay, from the CISO to the analyst. Examine, Examine also one of the cybersecurity provider company which normally provides teams to such a cloud service provider. I shouldn't give a name here because I'm not trying to market anybody. So I'll oh sir, come on, I have to remove that name. Okay, I'll remove that name afterwards. Okay, so like this, we have all external cybersecurity service provider as well. They also have all employee weighted against North American, security clearance as the guidelines by the government and all, right? So that way, they normally employ all these secure employees in terms of their, place of birth, the psychological measures, and quite a few things are there. It's not as simple as we talk or we discuss normally. But yes, these guys are weighted, the girls and guys basically, for their own security clearance, and then they employ by such cloud service provider to make sure if they are working at the organizations, they are well within or well qualified for such roles, including psychological, educational, and all other requirements for these. And for all these things, they are normally trained with the tools like SIEM, the XDRs, and so on and so forth. Okay, so these tools and techniques are normally at a very advanced level. So they normally worked on a customized such tools for certain particular cloud service provider. If you look at Amazon, they have devised their own tools as well, but they closely use tools from IBM and couple of other service providers also. So renowned service provider, so that you can rely on all such tools and technologies to make sure your cloud, or your server farm is way secure, the most secure server farm in the world. Then also, we normally have quite a few external consultant like ethical hacker, penetration tester, who try to, who get paid on hourly basis for such, test work from outside of the server farm, so that they might get access logically. How can they get access to those electrical controls or the water controls or anything like, even the main gate controls and so on and so forth. So all such, controls have been weighted, tested on a periodic level. Then out of the box use case coverage, this basically, pertains to any new thing where we can break these physical boundaries or logical boundaries of the server farm and try to gain an access. That's also kind of work of these penetration tester who normally work from the external entity. Even large amount of search force is being employed by Amazon, Google, and various other service cloud providers. And we can be part of that also. But these are a bit kind of senior level positions where you need to create a brand of your own within the cybersecurity area. Then you'll be basically called, or you can basically get employed for these positions. So we can plan for such career after, let's say, 4-5 years of our workings, where we'll understand the latest tools and techniques, and then we can basically try to, penetrate certain number of server farms and understand how these things works on a ground level. And believe me, these are the few jobs who are basically every day, every time work from home. So when you want to venture into such, scenarios here, or rather work from home, work at night kind of scenario, because in the work at night, you have lesser, human loads on the network. So whatever do in terms of network penetration, network scans and all, it happens quite quickly for your given local servers and all. And that's why we normally do this work in the night. Again, there could be exception also. I'm just sharing the thought process, whatever I learned throughout my experience with you, so that you could be able to explain the length and breadth of these, security measures these company takes. On top of everything else, we have even behavior analytics for these security teams done quite regularly. If you know, at White House, all the employees are weighted on a behavioral deviation on almost monthly basis, because president don't want anybody who is angry, annoyed all the time within his workspace, right? So that's the same thing goes here in terms of cybersecurity offices or security area. They really don't want any behaviorally disturbed person. Okay, and they normally rate such security team almost weekly basis, or wherever they renew these teams. They have a periodic renewal of these teams. They shift from one farm to another, and so on and so forth, just to make sure nobody gets settled in a once farm and start building some way around the security. And that's what humans do, and that's a normal psychology. But still, rather than creating any malicious users or creating malicious administrator, we normally shift these employees from one server farm to another server farm. And this way, we keep, keep these employees on their toes to make sure you don't get settled with security. You keep upgrading it, you keep realigning it, you keep re-incrementing it piece by piece, day by day. Then there's something called alert enhancement. As we seen in the video, even if a slight change in temperature can trigger quite a few alerts. And why these are important? Because if you beef up the temperature of your room, of your desktop, of your laptop, the aging in the electronic components happen at a much quicker space. And that way, we have to make sure all these aging reduced to minimum, so that the server farm can exist for a longer period of time because these systems are on for 24/7, 365 days, and so on and so forth. So that's why we need to maintain them at a typical temperature, a particular temperature. Even we normally monitor each and every server rack separately. So in case any of these server racks getting heated up without, beyond the division which we have already marked, is getting notified by different alerts, and the infrastructure team will have a look at why it's happening. Is it like some, processor is failing, some components are failing, or something like that? Then we might replace that components as early as possible. And these guys normally keep a stocks of such server components within their facility so that they can do it within minutes rather than hours. Okay. And that's why they can give you a reliable service around the clock, year by year, and so on and so forth. And that's how we need to understand in terms of how does real incidents and response, team work for a given cloud infrastructure provider. Does that make sense to you? Any questions so far?
I'm good.
Yeah, is this adding a value to you overall, or
Yes.
I am, kind of speaking loud here?
No, you're good.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Let's move to the next one. Now, let's try to understand how we can build an SOC. Let's try to understand me as a cybersecurity analyst, how I'll build an SOC. SOC in the sense, Security Operations Center. So these security operations centers include physical as well as logical securities. And we need to really keep in mind, actually the security is really, addressable at a quicker space in a physical scenario than a logical scenario, because logical scenario can evolve by day, minute by minute, but physical scenario are almost same, right? So once you have a really matured security physically, it's easier to concentrate on the logical security, which eats up lots of your time and money, as well as the stress level, believe me. And we'll try to understand how this is done in a step-by-step process. The normal execution steps or a standard best practices are with these 5 steps. You normally plan an SOC. You normally design the SOC in terms of what type of server, what type of routers, what type of firewalls, how many clients, what type of load are we looking for, peak load, offload, and all those things. Then actual build the SOC. Now these SOC are local to the office every time. Whatever you design, you might attach to a cloud service provider for softwares and everything, but you need to have at least one server locally where you normally have these SOC operations going on from. This server can be the storage server of the surveillance camera you installed. This can be one of the machines which the employee sets. That's also possible. But again, we need to install so many security measures so that whoever employee is using that system won't even by mistake go and operate these security measures, which are really crucial to the business, really crucial for any penetration or any disturbance from such employees, from such even we can say quite busy employee for that matters, because all these offices which have just 1 or 2 staffs, means one computer operator or a computer executive, and other can be the supporting staff, like have a look at those web security cameras on those kind of stuff. And there are quite a few such offices, and we'll discuss about such offices as well, so that these 2 staffers are normally share the space on a single computer, single server, and they do all their tasks. Even we physically use that single server as our SOC center server, and that's why I was saying about the shared resources even in a local physical server. Then after building the SOC, so we plan SOC, we design the SOC, then we build the SOC as we discussed, depending upon the number of executives working in that office, depending upon number of visitors, and so on and so forth. Then we have operating SOC. So how do you operate SOC? You build some solid processes and policies to make sure how this SOC will operate, who will administer, who will basically have a look at all these, dependencies like power, power fluctuations, water fluctuations, disturbance from seasonal interference like tornado and heavy rains and so on and so forth. And then reviewing the SOC periodically or auditing the SOC. Okay, reviewing and auditing is the same. Reviewing in the sense make sure everything is working fine. Auditing in the sense you create actual artifacts. Most of the company do want actual artifacts on the ground, and that way we can start building in terms of the complete SOC for a given office. Now, as far as the first hands-on experience or a homework, what I would really, like you to do is basically create a SOC for a enterprise rent car small outlet, where I just have two computers, one server, one operator with that computer. Enterprise rent a car, right? A car rental outlet. Anybody haven't seen that car rental outlet till date? Okay, so I believe you all seen that enterprise rent a car outlet. There could be outlet with 10 executives or 2 executives. I'm talking about the enterprise because I can give you the complete, list of softwares they are using, and we'll go on discussing that thing because I worked with those security. I was a team lead for multiple technologies for insurance service provider integration at St. Louis, Missouri. I worked for the enterprise rent a car for around 3.5 years. So I know their in-depth security. I got around 8 hours from St. Louis from that company within that span. So it was really great career. I still get dreams about that, or feel good about that basically. Okay, so let's try to do a kind of hands-on experience or hands-on workshop where we'll try to build an SOC. Why right now we haven't touched out any tools bit as of right now. So we'll leave the tools out of it. First of all, we'll concentrate on physical security. We'll concentrate on designing the SOC. Then we'll concentrate on building the SOC and operating the SOC and some auditory procedures. So what I would really love you to do, prepare a kind of 5 slides presentation or 10 slide presentation, whatever you are comfortable in building an SOC for small office, where there are 2 or 3 employees work. Plus, it's really crucial for a business to have that outlet in place, up and running every time. You can take State Farm example, which is a kind of insurance service provider. You can take the example of enterprise rent-a-car outlet or a Hertz card outlet or whatever you like. Or you can take a small state office. There are some state offices in a small city like Cape Girardeau or, any small city like Fallon. Well, Fallon is a big city. Cities which have lesser than 50,000 population. Okay, think about such cities and try to build an SOC center for those things, and we can discuss these things in our next session. Today is 16, right? We'll go to a next. We'll have our next session on 20th June. So we'll discuss these things on 20th June session in detail. Okay, we are not finished yet. We are yet to have a class. But have you got the understanding what we need to do as a homework? Any questions so far on that?
Yes, I would like to know, Ravi sir, that that building an SOC, like technically the way you design right now with the client, firewall, hub, those way, or what are the security measures we can take? Security measures means the example in enterprise rental car, technically security cameras, security access for the employees, security access for the servers, those kind of things. How, what kind of design you are looking for, expecting?
Sure. Let me give. Yes, you're right. Basically, the physical security of it, basically the overall, understanding the layout of it, what type of security measures you can implement from whatever you know right now. Don't go to a level of firewalls, NIDS, SOCs. Well, we'll have one SOC system there. You don't have to draw these diagrams and all. If you draw, well and good, no problem. You can get this thing done in a Microsoft Word or Visio if you have, or you don't have to draw this diagram, or you can draw it with pen and paper as well. What I'm trying to understand is where are you in terms of building this cybersecurity thought process or building the SOC for a given small entity. Then incrementally, we'll migrate ourselves to a middle level company, then a bigger level company. And then we'll talk about how these regional SOCs, countrywide SOCs helps each other, coordinate each other, how these, cloud service provider, we got an idea, right, from that video, how they maintain their security one way or the other, physical as well as logical, what type of threat detection alarms they have implemented. Just put down fire detection alarm, electrical failure alarms, and so on and so forth, or alerts, whatever you want to put it in your words, so that this presentation will give all of us an idea of how we think and how others are thinking on the similar level. And then we will take this into a mature level, step by step. How to have these communication implementation, how to have these, periodic audits, how to have these, migration from various offices to various other offices, and so on and so forth. Okay. Why I giving you the name of Hearst Enterprise and State Farms? These are big companies. Means they employ at least 20,000 plus employees within North America. So they have a circulation policy. Believe me, for SOC they do have circulation policies. But yes, these are not the guys like they are living in suitcase. So how they normally work? They normally carry a suitcase with just the clothes and the office. In case if you are away from your hometown, the office normally pays for their lodging, boarding, food, and everything. And that's how it get work. Normally, their food is get delivered to the office. If they are eating, like afternoon lunch or something like that, their duties are 6 hours each. Normally, believe me, because that's the kind of psychological, barrier we have in terms of our work, fatigue or something like that. If you look at NASA, US military, they also plan their work 6 hours a day. Even the Project Management Institute and IEEE have supported this fact. Like after 6 hours, we just do time pass, or we just, normally try to find the fatigue of working. So a typical human normally works 1/4 of his day. That's 6 hours, and that's a proven fact. You can ask any psychologist or anybody for that matters. So this way, we normally building this even shift planning for SOC center and all those things. I know this is a bit early to share this homework with you, but this way we are trying to build our basic thought process for building these SOCs, and this is really important for long term. Believe me, whenever we try to design SOC for bigger firms, you will thank me. Like in earlier stages, we have at least given a thought without knowing any tools or something. And again, believe me, building SOC is an art work. It's not a scientific phenomena. It's not a well-defined process. And whenever you discuss this thing in an exercise session, you will understand why I am saying so. Because that's what I want to share with you. Like building SOC is not like, done this, done this, done this. Okay, now let's try start flying the plane. Well, even flying the plane is not that easy as it sounds. But still, building SOC is also a mammoth task. Be it for a smaller office, be it for a bigger office, but we want to learn it in a step-by-step way. Okay, does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir.
No problem. Anybody else have any question on the homework or the hands-on experience we want to have?
No, I'm good.
We are good, right? Okay. Sonali madam, we are good, right?
Yes, I'm good.
Thank you, man. Now, just to give you, oh man, I don't know why this image is blurred, but yeah, I'll read it for you. Don't worry. This is the kind of initial plan building and how we do it, just to support, how we're going to do it. The identify SOC-based desired objective. So first two objects can be physical security, logical security. Within physical security, how I can track the intrusions, how I can track and monitor the fire, how I can track and monitor the seasonal challenges. Then in logical security, even physical security, the access right and everything, but you can consider access right in your logical security as well. I'll leave it up to that. Rather than having a very, crude or very stringent way, we are trying to just understand how you as an artist will design a picture for SOC. As simple as that. Okay. So try to play around, try to use a imagination. Okay. And these are just support I'm going to giving to you. We will basically discuss this thing in detail after understanding our, other terminologies for cybersecurity. Okay. Then we have identified the capabilities to assess this. So how are we going to assess this periodically? People, processes, technology. You can normally devise in these three and try to align the different audits we plan for these people. Okay. Then there are analyzed document maturity level. So we can have a maturity level across the organizations for, let's say, whatever 10, 15 offices you have. I'm just thinking loud here. You can have even 10,000 offices. How do you analyze within themselves who are doing better, how he or she is doing better, and those kind of scenario as well. And then present and formalize the best practices, or present and share the best practices across the organization. So first you try to identify the desired objective, then you identify the capabilities to assess, then you collect the information on people, processes, and technology. You analyze and document the maturity level among offices, or try to build a maturity level, maximum maturity level for a given office, and then present and formalize these processes, or present and share the best practices across. Okay, does that make sense to you? Is it helping in any way?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me take you further. Okay, now here let's do one thing. Let's stop here, because now we are going into a thought process of starting with encrypted communication. As far as SOC guy go, the encryption communication is one of the most crucial factor. And if you look at the overall, intrusion alerts or intrusion tries, most of these tries are done through this communication. Means anybody want to tap the wire, literally tap the wire, means peel the coating, try to tap, solder another wire to that. Same thing with the other wires of the communication cables and all those things. And yes, these were the most successful tries. So how to stop this from happening is basically with the encrypted communication. This communication can be an employee communicating with the desktop laptop, or the desktop laptop communicating with the local server, or the local server is communicating with the cloud server, and so on and so forth. So there are these steps of communication, which we'll have a look at in next session. And then we'll try to build the SOC policy for these as well. Please don't include any communication-based SOC policy just now, okay? Because we'll learn these things. Why this first? Because this is much more, combination of physical and logical. Plus, there were maximum tries of break-in through communication lines, and that's why this is one of the most critical entity we have to tackle on priority. Rest, yes, we have to tackle, but then we have the other, responsible person. And this is mostly like, okay, the cable starts from you, but the cables end at me. So, as the cable starts from you, you have to take, maintain of this cable, not me. And these kind of conflicts even given rise to many other, intrusion threats or intrusion tries within those cable network as well. And as we all know, normally we used to have, cable networks prior to, couple of years ago. Now, at least we are moving to 4G, 5G, and, various other wireless protocol, which are repeated for a higher, throughput of communication. But at the end of the day, we are still implementing these cables, like we see undersea cable, we have a, under the drainage cable, and so on and so forth. We are still using cable. Even if you start with 5G, 6G, whatnot, we will still have a cable. So this encrypted communication is very crucial, even for the cable as well as wireless communication as well. So we're going to understand how many different type of such communications we normally use on a day-to-day basis, and what type of encryption we do use on these different lines. Okay, does anybody have any questions for me at this moment?
I'm good.
We are good, right?
We are
So
good, yes.
yes. So let's wind up our session a bit earlier, around 15-18 minutes earlier, and let's meet on Monday again. Monday, right? Yes. Let's meet on Monday again, 20th June, and then we'll start understanding how we plan this encrypted communication. Okay, and let's try to work on those. How do we build SOC as a person? And again, I'll tell you, it's a personal approach. That what it matters. Whatever you know and how you're implementing your thought process. Okay, so if you know anything, please do include. I'm not going to stop you from that. But whatever we have learned, whatever we have discussed within ourselves, if you can implement that many things, those are more than enough for us. Okay, chalo then. Let's stop here. Have a good night, and let's meet on Monday, 20th June. Okay.
You too. Thank you.
Sure,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Have a good night. Have a
Good
great
night.
weekend. Bye bye. Take care.